Hello and welcome to the Dudes in the Closet podcast. I'm your host, Josh. Today I'm here with a very special guest because I'm not interesting enough on my own.
Hi, I'm Josh's roommate. Housemate? Roommate. One of those.
Housemate?
Housemate.
Yeah,
Yes.
we live in the same house. How convenient.
Yes.
Yeah. I gotta say, housing market, very interesting. It's been kind of bad, but not terrible.
It sure has had some numbers going on.
Yeah. You would think that the housing market would, decrease in quality.
It's just sort of, it's, like, I wouldn't necessarily say changed in quality, but it said, what if we just fuck around a little bit? What if we make everyone's lives just a little bit interesting and kind of collapse at random, take a nap, get back up, shit in someone's lawn.
Oh, right, yeah.
Having a time.
In general, I understand. The housing market is variable like the whims of a homeowners association.
Okay, homeowners associations are whole different fucking beasts. Terrible, garbage little people. Goblins that want nothing to do with good and wholesome things. They just said, have turf in your lawn and have 2 trees. Fuck your trees and fuck your grass. I have feelings about homeowners associations.
I'm not a big fan of lawn monoculture.
I'm not either.
I think it kind of defeats the purpose. I mean, it's bad for biodiversity. It's bad for producing oxygen.
No,
it kind of look ugly sometimes.
Truly, no. And wiping out native grass means hella fucking erosion. Also, like, native grass, like prairie grass, especially, which like grows in the United States. About a roundabouts where we are. If you find like true, proper, like still wild grass, motherfucker has roots for feet under the ground.
Really?
Yeah. No, and if you look at like lawn turf, it's got like 2 inches of roots.
Oh, wow.
Literally, like the smart people with PhDs in this shit, their theory / somewhat proven hypothesis is that root system is how those plants communicate with each other. So it's essentially like a grass community.
Right.
And this happens with trees, too. There's trees that can fully support other trees that have been cut off from their roots by nutrient sharing because they're connected. And so when you have, like lawn grass without the ability to communicate with the rest of its grass, you have brainless grass that's just going to fucking die over and over again.
I see. Interesting. Huh. I mean, I guess... I know that some grasses can communicate via pheromones to a degree. But usually it's like grass to insect communication.
This is less like communication. But
well,
like,
yeah, of course. It's
It's almost like a self-maintaining equilibrium.
Yeah, I do know that there's a lot of there's some invasive species of grass that actually have more invasive root systems.
Yeah. No, and a lot of, because the problem is, right, when you get lawn grass, like green lawn grass, it's like one of like 5 varieties, which aren't going to be native to your area, chances are, and you put it down in those little squares of turf. They don't have any inbuilt roots, and it's very difficult because they're not native for them to do well in the soil type you have.
Right. So you kind of just have to artificially keep them alive.
Exactly. No, and a lot of them are very, very like water intensive because they're not native to dry regions.
Yeah, because they come from somewhere like wetter.
Exactly. They come from somewhere a lot of times like subtropical where it's fucking green.
I think we're actually technically a subtropical climate.
Probably, but our humidity stuff
That's true.
Ain't it?
That's true. That's
also
fair.
Our rainfall
is very
not,
different.
Yeah,
not
like,
necessarily subtropical.
Exactly. No, and like a lot of, because I know.
Where does the turf come from? What's the United States state that exports turf the most? What's the most turf? Where does it come from? Do you think the most turf comes from like Mississippi or something?
I almost feel like it would come out of like, when I'm trying to think of states that are green. Like, properly green, not like suburban green.
I mean, Arkansas is pretty green, but they don't really do a lot of turf. They do a lot of wood.
Yeah. I mean, gut instinct is to say, like, prairie shit, but, like, no. That's
it's
not the
clearly
type of
not.
That's not the type of grass that we have.
Yeah, no. Could be more like Florida or Georgia area.
That's kind of what I was thinking, like almost swamp, because that's pretty green. You get some stuff going on.
Yeah,
there.
I mean, then they do have pretty regular rainfalls there.
Yeah.
I mean, that would make sense. I don't know. I might have to do some research into the #1 turf exporter.
Yeah. I mean, knowing the U.S., chances are we don't even get it from the U.S.
Possible.
We probably drive it through Mexico.
Could be done, yeah.
Because I feel like if you go to South America continent-wise, green. Greener,
yeah, sure. Yeah, we do have a bit of a drier climate here than there in certain places.
Yeah. I mean, we could also be getting it from, like, the northeast Midwest, maybe, but they also, like...
What, in, like,
I don't know.
Like Illinois?
Maybe, like, kind of like farmy areas. Because,
Illinois?
Because that's the thing, is, like, we wiped out grasses for farms.
That's fair,
so it would kind of maybe make sense that there's grass farms, but that doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of it is probably just imported seed that gets grown.
Imported, yeah. I guess they do get grass seeds.
Yeah.
That we do get a lot of those.
Yeah, no.
So, like...
And it would explain the very small root system, because if you're getting, like, grown just enough to root somewhere else, then it doesn't have to be from the U.S.
Grown just enough. Do you think they've got international shipping on mulch and sod? On sod, I guess, is what we're talking about.
I mean, probably, maybe.
Are you suggesting that I could get turf from, like, a different country, like Japan?
Dude, I bet if you had enough money, you absolutely could.
Because I want to get a lawn.
Okay.
That is completely covered in squares of sod.
Okay.
That are all from different countries that are cut into the shape of that country.
So you want to make, like, a scale world map of sod.
Yes.
I dig it.
Yeah, on my lawn.
I dig it.
On my front lawn. I'm probably going to need quite a bit of space for that to be viable. Because, like, a lot of the islands are going to be garbage.
That's true. Also, like...
How am I going to keep track of that? I'd kind of have to get it all at once. And then...
I mean, I feel like your better bet, instead of, like, having them grow the sod and then bring it to you internationally, is get grass seeds.
Okay, because they'll be dormant and I'll be able to...
Exactly. And then you can do your own research. Because, like, look, if you have little, like, containers in the correct shape and you just put the seeds in the place they need to go on the map, then you should... Because then you can have different soil types in different containers. They can hopefully probably...
Oh, no. I don't want different soil types. I want to have a grass battle royale.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, I want to see which most common species of sod from each individual country has the most staying power.
Okay. So you want grass on grass violence.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to have a giant game of Civilization 5, but it's grass on my lawn and in the shape of the world.
See, I feel like what would end up happening, though, just statistically, is whatever the most invasive and well-suited species to where we are is the one that's gonna win.
Yeah,
but what is it, is the question.
I guess that's fair. Maybe I do this in a lab.
Yeah.
Where it's very contained.
Yeah.
Where I've got soil brought in artificially, put out into this maybe 2 foot deep, big old maybe.
Yeah, literally, like, buy an old, like, airplane bunker.
Oh yeah, airplane. Yeah, like
the big, like,
the big warehouse, the big airport. Fucking
I know
what
there's
you're
a word
about.
for it.
Hangar.
Yes. Yeah.
Buy an old airport hangar.
Yeah. No, and fucking, like, build yourself up, like, a couple steps, right, of concrete.
Yeah.
So that you have, like, essentially a massive fucking indoor.
Oh, you know where I could do it? I could buy out the Expo Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That would work. The one with the driller in front. Imagine people coming to watch the grass war over the course of several years.
That would be kind of hilarious.
And they've got a massive floor in there.
That's true.
Like, it's huge. They used to bring in, like, oil equipment, so it's massive.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And, like, if you, instead of
I watched a monster truck rally in there.
Yo.
It was kind of stupid, I'm not gonna lie.
The grass becomes too much of a problem, run it over with monster
trucks. Oh,
yeah.
After the invasive grasses have spread everywhere, then we bring in the monster trucks, and it's...
Exactly, no, and whatever's left, you just burn it down.
Yeah.
Make a show of it.
Yeah. Good idea. I don't know if the room has that good ventilation, though.
No, just burn down the whole building.
Oh, well, it's made of metal and concrete. It's gonna have to get really hot.
Yeah.
It's gonna have to get really, really hot. I mean, it could be done,
Then burn the grass. I don't know. Maybe set off some fireworks.
Yeah, inside the building.
Yeah.
That'd be funny.
Yeah.
I would actually watch that. That would be
That'd
hilarious.
kinda
Yeah.
hilarious.
I'd love to watch one of those big
Just
star ones just hit the ceiling and go boom.
Yeah. A fucking gunshot.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be Tulsa, Oklahoma. People would just think, gunshot.
Yeah, it depends on where you're at. I mean, in the Expo Center, probably not. I mean, if you go like 2 miles away from the Expo Center, nobody's going to give a shit.
I mean, that's the thing. If you're more than 2 miles away from the Expo Center, then you might as well go, gunshots.
Yeah, but if you're like near the Expo Center, then you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Oh, well. It would be funny, though.
It would.
Yeah. Man. Huh. So then we would call it Turf War.
Oh, absolutely.
And we would televise it on History Channel.
Yes. Oh, one thing you could do, right? Once all of your invasive grass is grown and you've gotten your, like, money's worth of this experiment, right? Turn Turf War into Surf and Turf. Flood the building.
Oh!
And start trying to figure out which, like, wild fish you can farm in Oklahoma.
Which wild fish?
Mm-hmm. Domesticate some fish. Chuck them in that water. Let them eat the grass.
So you're saying that in that big pit they've got, I'm going to have to actually make sure that everything's watertight up to where that overhang is.
Yep.
And then I'm going to have to get a bunch of different kinds of fish.
Yes.
I see. Well, that depends, because if it's grass at the bottom, a lot of fish are not going to be well suited for that environment. I feel like
that's true.
It could be just the same thing but with fish.
Yes. Burn the grass, right?
Yeah.
Maybe repack the dirt.
Yeah.
Or choose a different thing and just pit the most invasive species of fish in each, like, major water body you can think of.
Right.
Against each other.
Okay, so then it would be, what are some pretty invasive species of fish?
Lionfish.
Lionfish are a big one. Admittedly, it's not always fish. Sometimes it's snakes.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes it's other things. I mean, I know they got a lot of pythons down there in the Everglades and stuff.
Yeah.
Though, I guess that doesn't necessarily count as an ocean environment, but it's water, so it kind of counts.
The more I think about it, I feel like I understand that there are invasive species in the ocean because, like, we have international, like, trade and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's all connected. It's the ocean.
What if we have a deadliest warrior, but it's invasive species, and we gauge the species' weapons, armor, and skills to see who's the deadliest warrior. But it's it's like a lionfish and an anaconda, or like
Komodo dragon,
or a eucalyptus tree.
Oh,
watch out! That's invasive.
True.
Watch out for those.
Hit them with some of those, like, invasive bug species.
Oh, there's too many invasive bugs though. A lot of any wasp, but not every wasp. Most wasps.
No, that's what I'm saying. Pick the, like, meanest, ugliest motherfuckers out of that bunch.
Yeah.
Chuck them in there.
That's fair. So then lionfish would be on the list. Mm-hmm. We'd have those hornets, those murder hornets, whatever the hell they're called.
Ooh, I know there's, like, invasive ants.
Ants, yeah, some ants, but it depends on the location, I guess. Yeah, I had an ant kick at one point in time. There are some really interesting ant species out there, especially they have really, like, specialized morphology,
Can't say I would know.
They're cool. There are some ants that are really big ants.
Yeah, I feel like if I ever saw one, I would not be taking the time to understand its morphology.
Yeah, I mean, ants generally not too big of a problem, but,
Yeah, fair. Annoying.
Kind of a pest sometimes.
Annoying. Kind of gross, but...
Yeah. I mean, better than rats.
That's true. Well, that's the thing. I prefer rats to mice. Rats are okay.
Oh, you prefer rats to mice?
Yeah. Because ants, I'm unpartial to bugs. But I feel like from a damages standpoint, ants are less bad than rodents. That's fair. Ants can't really chew through your drywall and cabling and stuff.
Yeah, but you'd rather have a rat than a mouse.
Full agree.
That's fair. I mean, mice, they're a bit trickier.
Like, rats, I'm like, feral rats, they're feral rats.
Yeah.
But,
the problem is if you have a rat problem, I think you've got bigger problems.
Yeah, that's fair. See, like, rats alone... They made good pets too, is my thing.
That's
I'm
true.
like, you know what? We can kind of vibe if it's just a rat. If there's other problems and there are rats because of it, then the other problem should be addressed. Because I have the feeling if there's rats, there's going to be like maggots or some shit.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Huh. So if you think, what do you think would happen if we pit rats against some invasive species? Do you think a rat could beat a lionfish? What if they're on a terrestrial environment?
I was going to say, on land, yes. In the water, I feel like the rat would drown before it could do
Rats
anything.
can swim.
Well, I know that, but like... Oh, here's the other thing, though. I feel like a rat would be so foreign to a lionfish that it probably wouldn't, like, do anything to it.
That's fair.
It'd probably go, huh, that's a weird-looking other fish.
That's fair.
You know?
Yeah, you'd never know. I mean, you make a reasonable point. Maybe they just wouldn't really interact with each other.
Like, I feel like the rat, however, you could condition the rat to dislike lionfish.
You condition you put the rat in the fucking VR torture chamber where it gets stung by lionfish all the time, and
no, like
you starve it and then you throw it in the pool with the lionfish.
Exactly. No, like
So
they've trained rats to like identify different handlers in experiments and like in heavy air quotes one and dislike air quotes the other.
So we're gonna use the rat's basic understanding of social phenomena in order to just make a kill squad of lionfish killing rats.
Look, and then what if you rounded up instead of just point blank killing all of these like pest rats, taking the time to train a few of them, let them train the rest of them, release them into the ocean against lionfish and lionfish only.
Just the lionfish. Mm-hmm. That's fair. I mean, how far do you think you could get? I think staging a man versus lionfish war like the emu war is probably pretty moot.
Yeah.
Well, there's got to be a fish out there that's smart enough to be trained like a rat.
I mean, dolphins.
Yeah, so
easy. Mammals, but still.
But the dolphins aren't going to eat the lionfish because you'd need to have a fish that are absolutely willing to go hard. You know?
Yeah. I don't know. Okay, this one's a little far-fetched, but like dolphins, whales, you know, all of those kind of group of animals, they're intelligent enough that we've been able to like communicate in ways and like train them. What if we trained similar species not to eat the lionfish, but simply murder them and bring them to us for a reward? Because people can eat lionfish.
Do you think you could train like a seal?
Yeah, probably.
So then the goal is to get a seal death squad instead.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
That actually might work.
Navy SEALs, but they're actual SEALs.
Yeah.
And they don't actually do anything stealthily, they just eat lionfish and come back.
Exactly. And the publicity on that would be amazing, because people look at seal and go, oh, that's kind of cute, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
they're just conditioned to have a vehement hatred for lionfish.
Yeah, no, and like, I mean, the only problem is I bet the, like, living regions of these two don't overlap. But
I mean, some seals are going to die. And also, seals are very, polar.
Yeah.
That's the hard part, is that the seals are going to have a hard time. You'd have to have boats.
I was going to say, what if we do seals for some regions and sea lions?
Sea lions.
Because I know those have a little...
I bet you could train an otter to fight a lionfish.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I bet those little bastards are full of rage.
Yeah. You can, okay, so we've got to vary it based on the topography.
We've decided on like land and sea-based mammals.
Yes.
That we know at least somewhat we can train.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've established that, what if we airdrop like fucking raccoons into the ocean?
Well, that's not going to go very well for the raccoons.
What if we teach them to swim and then do it?
Well, that's not going to go very well for the raccoons.
Why can't we teach it to go well for the raccoons? Because that would be so much funnier than seals and sea lions.
Well, isn't there like a garbage patch?
Oh, that's true.
So what if you drop them on that?
Teach them to hate lionfish.
Yeah, and then teach them to hate lionfish first.
Yes.
And then they'll develop their own isolated raccoon community on the floating garbage
mound. Yes.
So we have an extremely xenophobic tribe of raccoons on a floating garbage patch in the ocean.
Yeah, this is the most bastardized Noah Ark scenario we could ever have.
Yeah,
It'd be so funny.
Yeah, so if the world floods, only the raccoons will survive.
Yeah. You know, not the worst fate of the world.
I mean, all things considered, raccoons are like on the list of things that could probably be a common ancestor to a future intelligent species.
Yeah, no, I mean they're pretty close to having nice little grippy opposable thumbs.
Yeah.
Opposable fingers.
Like,
you know,
the top picks. I mean, dolphins obviously, but it's kind of hard to say because they've got a lot of other things going on.
No, and like if you're talking land-based species, then
corvids and probably raccoons and some other scavengers are your top picks.
Yeah, full agree.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't actually know how well raccoons are in regards to the understanding of like social stuff. Do raccoons have tribes? Do they know people?
I kind of doubt it. Not to bully the raccoon, but I'm no expert on them. But I mean, I don't think you frequently see them in large groups. I think your point of corvids would be much more like human adjacent in terms of both social like structure and actual like intelligence in the way we understand it.
Crows, they're already kind of like where humans were about 150,000, 160,000 years ago.
Yeah, no, they know how to use tools. They know how to teach the use of tools. They know how to make tools.
They recognize each other and faces and...
They can recognize people, too. They don't just recognize people, like, not people, birds.
Yeah, which implies that they recognize other animals.
Yep.
So, yeah.
No, and they also have play behavior. Like, not even... Because a lot of animals have play behavior that is meant to, like, for young versions. I'm trying to find... Offspring, there we go.
Yeah.
To learn, like, survival things. Crows have play behavior that do not serve any...
purpose.
Like, yes. There's crows that have learned to dance to like music. It's not flight, nor is it walking. It's in like rhythm with the music that gets played. Like they are able, and a lot of this was unprompted. The only prompting rather would have been seeing humans perform that behavior and emulating it. Which, granted, is not a completely independent development of play behavior, but it isn't in humans either. It's taught by other humans.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think they're a pretty good contender for next king of the planet.
Yeah. I mean, we all know that, you know, eventually somebody's going to get visited by a time traveler, and it's not going to be a human. It's going to be a sentient bird.
Yep. Full believe.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everything is cyclical, and we started with fucking dinosaurs. Birds are just dinosaurs, but like pared down, and we're just gonna go back to that.
Way cooler, all things considered.
Full agree.
I was definitely back in my younger years. I was on the dinosaur train a little bit, but it never really stuck with me. And birds are dope. Birds are dope. I was into rocks as well.
Rocks are good.
Yeah, you find a good rock.
Yep. Sometimes you just gotta hold a good rock.
Man, you ever go to you ever over there in the fine people out there already know that Hudson and I go to the University of Oklahoma.
Correct.
Over in Sarkeys, they've got rocks.
They do have rocks. There's a whole club dedicated to rocks.
Bro, I was looking at the rocks. Mm-hmm. Nice rocks.
Oh yeah.
I think the lab grown quartz they've got there is fascinating.
This is somewhat on the topic of rocks. First of all, fuck the diamond industry.
Yeah.
Because horrible.
Yes.
But I don't understand why you would want a diamond when you can get a lab grown stone that looks cooler, is stronger, is cheaper, is better
you could get an actual stone that is all of those things too.
Exactly. Like But my thing with the lab grown stuff is like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That is so scientifically cool.
That is true.
Why would I want a hunk of rock that's from like child labor when I can have what is like the culmination of years and years of research and people's like life work in this cool little shiny thing? You know, like that's so much cooler.
Yeah, it is. That's fair.
Lab grown stuff? Dope. Don't understand the prejudice against it.
Well, that's fair. What's your favorite rock?
Ooh, that's a hard one.
Top rock.
Top rock. Pop rocks.
Pop rocks. I guess those count.
No, they definitely don't.
Not in terms of the definition I was thinking of.
Yeah, no. I mean, my almost always go-to is sapphire, but that's like mineral, not rock. So
I mean, I guess it is if you want to classify the difference between a mineral and a rock.
You know, which I don't, because I honestly don't know it. I just know that they are different. Favorite rock, I'm very partial to like smoky quartz.
Yeah, I can respect that.
Because it's abundant, it's pretty neat. You can get some cool shapes.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty dope when rocks have little inclusions that have water in them, because that's like super weird and pretty neat.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I would have to say my favorite rock, if we're going by rock terms, if we're going by strictly rock terms, probably pumice.
Good choice.
But not rock terms, and mineral, I suppose. You know, that's a challenging one because there are a lot of good ones out there. There are a lot of good ones out there. And I mean, obviously, the rubies, the emeralds, the sapphires, they're very pretty. I'm a big fan of a lot of the quartzes. Or, you know, silica minerals, the amethyst and all that, which is, you know, just quartz but different. But I gotta say, there's some really, really vibrantly colored ones as well, like rhodochrosite, which is very cool.
Yeah, dude, I'm a fan of bismuth.
Bismuth is pretty.
Weird.
Bismuth is pretty, but isn't that mostly...
It's mostly metal.
It's human-made, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like more metal than rock, I think. At least
it is technically
touch-wise.
metal, I think.
But it's shiny.
It's very shiny. Yeah. Now, I don't know. I'd have to
do some research.
Mineral, I'd probably have to say is... I'm kind of a sucker for emeralds, personally.
That's fair.
I've actually got a chunk of unrefined emerald at my house.
Oh, dope.
Yeah. Tragically not this house. Oh, no. Yeah. So, one topic, since we're past the topic of rocks.
Okay.
One topic that I figure the good people... the good maybe one or two people out there that may fathom a listen.
Yeah.
Art.
Okay. Yep, that is kind of my domain, isn't it?
Yeah.
What about art?
I didn't really think about it beforehand. I mean, you know.
Well, okay. So, because we're sitting in this room recording a podcast,
yes.
Right? One big thing, most artists who like sit in a studio and do art have to take some sort of art history if they go through any sort of curriculum in art, and it's a mixed bag on whether you love it or you hate it, but the thing remains that at some level it is important or we wouldn't be doing it. The thing I think is cool, right? Because art classifies such a broad range of topics. We're sitting here, we're talking into a microphone, right?
Art.
And we are yes, it is. No, podcast is a form of new media art. We're sitting here, we're telling a story, right? Or we're having a discussion, and it's framed in a context that's sent out to people with the intent of passing some information or emotion along, right? And the thing that I think is so cool about podcast is the oldest form of, like, not just, maybe not the oldest, but one of the oldest forms of both art and just, like, information sharing and communication amongst people is oral storytelling and oral tradition. Most cultures have some form of folklore, you know, spoken word tradition, and a lot of that did tone down when written, like, language systems came about, print media more recently, and then television, film, photography, right? But I think it's so interesting that with podcast and then before it radio, we looped back to audio communication as a form of information passing, storytelling, and art.
I see.
Because this doesn't technically take into account music, because the, like, fine arts, like, definitions of storytelling as an art form and music, they sometimes align but are different. Music implies, like, instrument. There's formal elements that are completely different. But, like, when you look at podcasts, even like fantasy ones, even ones that aren't telling everyday stories, they're still centered very much around a theme or, like, piece of information that you are supposed to take away from the story you're hearing, right? No matter how outlandish the topic, there's some core something that is there that makes it a story. And so in that way, podcasts are part of the ongoing tradition of oral communication that has taught, brought up, and informed humanity since probably before we know.
I know that there's a lot of cycles, like, in terms of how art progresses over time, where we have a sort of modernism to postmodernism to post-postmodernism and back to modernism kind of cycle. Which is one of the interesting things, because I think we've seen similar trends in much more quickly evolving mediums.
A great example of what you're talking about. So the way that I've heard it put very well is art is almost always informed by other art, whether you want it to be or not. One of those like fun cycles is print media, because you saw like the printing press came about. It was not actually Gutenberg as the first one. I believe it was out of Asia, where they had the first printing presses. But regardless of that point,
the Gutenberg Bible is the one that gets tossed around, but it was the first. It was the first. It was the first mass-produced print Bible, but
that's the thing, is it was the first English press that became well-known, and therefore everyone was like, that was the first printing press. It was not.
I mean, again, that's usually how it goes.
That is...
People take myth much more seriously than they do.
Exactly, and it's just because there's more English record, and because history, in a way English speakers know it, is very Eurocentric, that's become the Gutenberg printing press. That's what we know. But the first ones I believe were out of Asia. I couldn't tell you exactly where, but I do know that they were likely older than Gutenberg because it's documented in books from that period. Anyway, print media, right? It starts as printing books. Written communication, people become more literate, really cool, really great. But print media also extended to printing images, right? The reproducibility of media, from going from like a single sculpture you have, a single painting, a single like piece of art that is fully unique. You now have a repeatable process to produce many of the same thing. And repeatability is like a huge thing in like newer art forms.
I'm telling you though, print just destroyed the scribe industry.
What
are you gonna do?
Exactly.
Imagine being at the printing revolution in like the 16s, 17s.
I couldn't tell you.
And you're hanging out in England, and you're like, yes, I've just received an order from my lord to copy down this document, this entire treatise from Austria, and it needs to be recorded in triplicate so that I can send it out to his peers. And then suddenly there's a printing press that's like, hey, what if we printed the news, but printed like, I don't know, 300, 3, 4, 5,
in like a day.
Yeah, it's like, what if we just crank out, maybe 500 copies of this in a day? We'll have a 1 week-long run of this, and it'll be distributed to practically the entire country, or to everyone that can read it.
And the beauty of that, too, is it's forgotten almost immediately. Very few people keep a newspaper. The whole point is reproducibility and then destructibility. So there's a lot of play on value and time in that kind of section of art.
Whereas when you print something, if it takes less time, it may be perceived as having less value.
Because like if you think about it, you get a newspaper for 5 cents, right? But like a painting is still this prestige thing of spending like hours and hours and thousands of dollars on.
Do you think that the same sort of psychological mentality applies to things like modern art?
Yes.
Whereas it has this sort of appearance of it not taking as much time.
Yes. You see it a lot in modern art, and you also see it in digital arts. Basically,
fair.
You see it in any art form that is new, for the most part. Like when photography was getting its grounds, a lot of people were basically making the argument that no, this isn't art. This is only there to document reality.
Right.
This is only a scientific thing. You are not allowed to use it as like a fine arts thing or use it in a fine arts context. And then a bunch of artists went and said, you're wrong, and here's why, by doing things like early photo editing, which included like layering or altering these like various chemicals and doing all this stuff to like put falsehood into this thing that was originally viewed as an absolute truth and reflection of reality.
Right.
And that's how people started going, oh, okay, maybe this isn't just like a science thing, this can be an art thing. Also, there are now an established tradition of formal elements in photography, but besides the point, a lot of new art, when it becomes art, there's usually some sort of tipping point that makes it art. And it's not always easy to gauge in the moment, but looking back on it, it's a lot easier to say, oh, that's kind of the point where we like reassessed the value of this thing as an artistic medium instead of just a functional or otherwise existing thing. Another place you see that in arts is textiles, quilt making, because textiles has gone through this like super weird revolution arts-wise of being like, forever ago you needed like blankets for warmth, you needed clothing, all of that. It was this functional necessity,
very necessary,
of human life. And then when you start getting into like decorative quilts, it was never like, old decorative quilts were never classified as art. No one looked, regardless of how much time, energy, and technical skill it needed, no one ever looked at that and went, that quilt is art. It was just, that is a quilt.
Yeah, I see.
Right. And a lot of that stems from like sexism, because it was women's work, and women were historically not valued in an arts context, which is really tragic because they make some really, really cool stuff a lot of the time. But textiles is still an art form like now, that even though it's becoming something that people are accepting as a more formal fine arts medium, there's still a lot of people who are like, nope, textile art's not art.
Well, I feel like a lot of functional things are not really considered for their artistic merit.
Yes, and that's an assumption and like general theme that got challenged a lot in the like Dadaist kind of movements. The rise of like assemblages, found objects, collage work, and plays with reality challenged like what is art, like what makes something art, because that was a time when a lot of new media was kind of making itself known and becoming used. Another one that like, if you really think about it, every quilt is just a collage, right? It is a fabric collage, but it's a collage by virtue of combining different things that were from different places. And collage as an art form too is something that like, some people look at it and go, that's like a kindergarten craft, right? Other people will look at it and go, no, that's something of its own merit. And that's still an argument today for a like air quotes art form, because however you debate it, I say art form because it's used in an artistic context. It's still debated now, and it's not like young even today by any means. And then when you get into looking at, okay, well, a lot of people will hold the opinion, this physical collage that you like cut paper and stuff and stuck it together, that's art. But this thing you did digitally is not art. Where do you draw those lines?
I see.
That's what happens with value in new media is a lot of times because new tends to come with technology and in heavy air quotes ease, people devalue it on artistic merit, saying, oh, but it was easy. You did it quickly, so it's not art.
I think the increased cultural progression due to the prevalence of the internet will probably make digital art have a much, much quicker turnaround.
I think so. I think the turnaround on a lot of like accepting art as art has shrunk timeline-wise as we get into...
I mean, admittedly, though, in some cases, we are just realizing some things are art. Ancient arts, like basket weaving and leather working, I feel like once they have become unnecessary, we've realized how much gets put into them.
Yes, and the other thing is, people try to have this super, like, big distinction between art and craft, and honestly, I don't feel like there's much of a line between them.
I mean, why can't something be masterfully crafted?
Exactly, no, and like... the thing is, like, when you think about the term masterpiece for an artist, right? It was the work that got them out of their apprenticeship. It is the work that classified them as a master. If that isn't craft as well as art, then what is it? You know? And in the same way, like, again, a lot of the argument loops back to, oh, if it's like a functional thing, then it's not art. But you've now discounted ceramics almost entirely, like pottery.
Weapons.
Exactly. Weaponry, furniture.
Yeah.
A lot of furniture.
Yeah.
And it's...
Hell, doors.
Yeah, exactly. No, like woodwork, wood carving.
Yeah, woodwork.
You know, and I feel like if we break down that, like, somehow, like, some people find this deep need to distinct, like, high arts versus low arts versus craft. And there was a word that came out in, like, probably the 60s or 70s, kitsch. Like, kitschy, like, kitsy. It's like, basically, this is trashy. This was quick. This isn't art.
Right.
And it was, again, trying to further that divide of, like, craft versus art, which, like, I still just don't really think there is one.
I think the distinction
is more intent.
Yes. I think there's an interesting distinction between art that has a functional purpose and that doesn't.
Agreed. But I think they both still fall in the broad category of art.
Yeah.
I think a lot of, because again, this like form, function, and like what is art question comes up a lot when we start getting into like surrealism, Dadaism, a lot of like younger movements, because Marcel Duchamp, everyone has seen probably pictures of the urinal that he was like, this is art.
Yeah.
And the story behind that actually gives it a lot of context. A gallery was holding this exhibition, and they said you can enter anything, any work, as long as you pay the like $2 or $3 entry fee, which at the time was like a reasonable amount of money. And so Duchamp was being very like contrarian and said, what if I do this? So what he did is he ripped a urinal off a wall, he turned it on its side, he signed it with a fake name, and submitted that as his piece, and it got turned down.
Huh.
So that means that panel looked at this and said, this isn't art. Right? So someone took this and decided, no, that's not art. He pitched it as a sculpture, I believe, but he was told, no, that's not art. You can't put it in the gallery.
Right.
So of that original work, all that exists of it is a photograph taken by one of his friends.
Huh.
But now that we look back on it, right, with a lot of more modern arguments about intention being what's behind the art, we now look at that and go, even if you dislike it, it's art.
Mm-hmm.
That argument has come about because we say that the recontextualization and repurposing of this object, right, essentially the parodying of it in a different reality and existence makes it art.
I see. I suppose I have a bit of an interest in surrealism and in postmodernism, especially in the digital world when it comes to things like games.
Yes.
Because this is going to be a reference that nobody else is going to understand, but there's an exceptional game that I think won Game of the Year called Cruelty Squad.
Okay.
That is a surrealist and extremely horrible and kind of scary and kind of bloody and weird satire on internet culture.
Okay.
And modern politics.
Nice.
And it's such a trip to play. Just like so many other games that are such a trip to play, but I think where a lot of the places where art and I suppose what people have generally
considered art,
the lines between what people consider art and don't, and when multiple of those overlap, it always produces these absolutely fascinating things.
Yes, it really truly does. And like the thing that's so cool if you look at like very, very contemporary art now is we're very familiar with mixed media. Like saying, okay, cool, I made a sculpture and now I'm going to paint it. Or like I've done a painting, what if I have like a 3D element to this? That is kind of new. The like combination of artistic practice, ideas, and materials is, I won't say it's like absolutely brand spanking new, but it's like pretty young. Like last 100 years is when it's become something that's like done, known, and acceptable. And it's such a cool evolution because in the same way, like blurring those lines and seeing where they intersect and understanding, these things aren't as dissimilar as we thought, is where you kind of break into the art versus non-art argument. And it's so much of it is about like history, context, intent, public perception. There's so much that goes into it. It's a really, really fun argument to look into. You can write like thesis upon thesis on this kind of stuff and still not even scrape the surface.
But speaking of not even scraping the surface, I think that's about all the time we have. Stay tuned for Turf Wars on National Geographic.
Yeah. Maybe
History Channel. I'm not too sure. Whichever one takes me, I guess. I'm going to pitch it.
Yep.
Well, anyway, It's been a pleasure.
It's been fun.
Thank you for coming on, and arrivederci.
Peace.